everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making Gordon Ramsay's shepherd's pie. This is quick, cheap, easy, and rivals any shepherd's pie that you would get in a restaurant. So that's what I'm making today. Here I've got half of my mince that I'm about to brown up in the pan, and then I'm going to brown up the other half just so you get a little more even browning without overcrowding the pan. And once I've done that, I will come back and we will get to preparing the rest of the shepherd's pie. So I've got my mince just over medium heat, and what I've got in there is about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. One thing that I did forget to do is season up my mince. So what I'm going to do now is add half a teaspoon to this browning and half a teaspoon to the next browning of my all-purpose seasoning. I've got a video for how I make this all-purpose seasoning, so I'll put an eye in the sky if you're interested in visiting that. Now that this half of the mince is nicely browned, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it with a slotted spoon and put it into a plate, and then we're going to brown off the next half. So now that I'm done browning all of the meat, I'm going to get started on browning the vegetables. So here I've got, I had 2 medium onions. So I've got 2 medium onions and 2 medium carrots that I have chopped finely. You can grate them if you like, but I decided that I was just going to chop them. And here I have 2 garlic cloves that I have also chopped. So I'm going to add those to my pan. And I'm going to cook them until they are nicely brown and translucent. You don't want to burn them though. Now I've kept the oil that I browned the meat in, so any juice and oil that was left over in the pan, that's what I'm going to cook my vegetables in. So I'm going to let these get nice and brown, and once they're nice and brown, I'll get you back. So the vegetables now are nicely brown and translucent. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, and 2 tablespoons of plain flour. Now what you want to do is you want to mix these through and cook them out for at least a minute. So you want to cook all of the rawness out of the tomato paste and the flour. Now the flour is going to help thicken the sauce, and the tomato paste is going to add that nice tomatoey rich flavour. Now that both of those are cooked out, I'm going to add 1 cup of red wine. Now you don't want to use an expensive red wine, but you do want to use something that you would drink. And you're just going to allow the alcohol to cook out for a few minutes. And I'm using a non-stick pan, but if you're not using a non-stick pan, this will also get rid of a lot of the anything that's stuck to the bottom of the pan and bring that up into the sauce. So what we want to do is we want to get it to a point where the red wine has almost reduced completely, and then we're going to add in some chicken stock. No. Sorry about that, my camera accidentally turned to side view, so that's why you got a few minutes of side view, but now we're back, I think. Or portrait view, I should say. Okay, and it looks like we're almost cooked down completely. What I'm going to add now is I'm going to add my chicken stock. So I've got 350 mils of chicken stock. I'm going to allow that to come to the boil, and then I'm going to add back the meat. So I'm adding all of the meat back, plus any juices that have settled to the bottom of the plate or bowl. Now I'm going to add thyme and rosemary. I've got 1 sprig of fresh rosemary that I've chopped up, and then I've got a teaspoon of dried thyme. And the last last thing that I'm going to add is 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. So now that we've got everything together, I am going to lower the heat up to low from medium-high, and we're going to allow that to simmer for about 35 to 40 minutes. So 35 minutes have passed, and this is what my meat looks like now. So I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to move this into a baking dish. You'll notice that the meat sauce has now thickened, all the flavors have developed. You just want to test this for salt seasoning. Mine was fine when I tested it. Yours might need a little bit more salt and pepper, but that's completely to taste. What I'm going to do now is, so you want to put it into an oven-safe baking dish, because the next part of the shepherd's pie is getting our mashed potato on top, and then we're going to bake it in the oven. You can do all of this in advance, so you can keep it in the freezer or the fridge right up until you bake it. So it's lunchtime here at the moment. I'm getting everything ready for dinner. It's a Sunday, so what I'll do is I'll keep this in the fridge right up until... So boiling, I have 600 grams of potatoes. Now I've purchased an all-purpose potato that are good for both mashing and other purposes, but you can buy a potato variety that's just good for mashing. So what I'm going to do is, once these are nice and tender, I'm going to drain them and put them back in the pan so that we can assemble the potato part of the shepherd's pie. Now that I've drained my potato, I'm going to mash it up with my trusty potato masher. And you just want to mash them right until they're really nice and mashed almost into a puree. And if your potatoes are nice and tender, they should mash like this fairly easily. Ooh. Now that my potatoes are mashed, I'm going to swap out to my spatula. I'm going to add 50 grams of butter. 30 mils of milk, for this particular mash, I'm also going to add 2 egg yolks, and you want to get them in and mix them around fairly quickly so that you don't create scrambled eggs. The 2 yolks just provide a richness to the mashed potato, and it causes them to souffle while they're cooking, so it really gives it this nice richness and light airiness. The last thing that I'm going to add is I've got 3 tablespoons Parmesan cheese here, but I'm only going to add 2 tablespoons into the mashed potato. The rest are going to go on top. Once again, you'll want to check that this is nicely seasoned the way that you want it. And once it's nice and mixed up, we're going to put it on top of our meat side of the dish. There we go. Here is our meat. All I'm going to do is put our mashed potato on top. So I'm not going to pour it all in. I'm just going to get spatulafuls or spoonfuls of the potato mixture, and I'm just going to dollop them on top, and then we'll connect it all later. This recipe serves 4. So this recipe serves 4 people. You can double it or triple it depending on how many people you need to feed, or if you want extra for the week for lunches or dinners. Matt and I will have 2 portions, and then each of us will have an extra portion that we can have for lunch tomorrow. So I'm just going to spread it evenly over the top so each portion gets a nice serving of potato and meat sauce. Now you don't need to be too fancy with it, this should be enough. The last thing that I'm going to do though is, so that it gets a nice crispiness on top, I'm going to get my trusty fork, and I'm just going to run my fork over the top to create these lines, and they will get nice and crispy when they're in the oven. Flatten, spread this in more into the center. Perfect. So that's all you're going to do, and then you're going to get the last tablespoon of Parmesan cheese and just sprinkle that over the top. There we go, that's all done. So like I said, I'm leaving this for dinner tonight, so I probably won't cook this until about 45 minutes or an hour before we're going to eat. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it in the fridge until then, and then what I'll do is I'll take it out, let it come to room temperature, and bake it in the oven. Once I get to that point, I will show you how we went. So this is the finished product. I ended up baking it for 35 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. If you're cooking it straight after you've made the filling and the topping, then you just want to bake it until it's nice and golden brown on top. Because I baked it from room temperature, I baked it for about 35 minutes just to get it nice and hot and ready to eat. So I'm going to serve this up, we're going to enjoy it, and I hope you try this. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, I'd love to have you around, and I'll see you next time. Bye!